Pro Style Production Network presentation of The Inside Look is brought to you by Clean Tech. Clean Tech, coming to the rescue since 1992. And now, The Inside Look. It's the Inside Look podcast presented by our friends at Clean Tech. Get COVID-19 deep cleaning services for your home or business with Clean Tech LLC. This proactive deep cleaning service includes disinfecting and sanitizing. Don't forget about Clean Tech's 24/7 disaster response and restoration services. Visit them online at cleantechllc.us. Clean Tech, coming to the rescue since 1992. Today we're going to be joined by one of the best in the business, the head coach of the MSU Beavers hockey team. It's Mr. Wade Regier. Wade, first of all, how are things going, man? Welcome into the 2020 hockey season. How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good, man. It's certainly a season of uncertainty, stuff that we certainly aren't prepared for. But you know what? We're just fortunate that we're still playing and we're still around.
Let's start with this, and let's talk about the current state of Mountain State men's hockey. You guys are the defending national champions because last year the tournament wasn't played. You had a good shot at winning the tournament last year, without a doubt, but here we are as the defending national champions in 2020, the 2021 season. What has this season been like so far? I know that this weekend, for example, you had games scheduled against Midland, Nebraska. They're unable to make the tow to Minot to play you guys. Touch on that just a little bit and what a headache it's been for you as the director of hockey operations, head coaching the whole program. What has it been like for you, Wade?
It's been challenging to say the least, Nick. We kind of knew that there would be uncertainty and challenges in terms of our schedule and just kind of taking it day by day. And it has been a challenge to say the least. You had a number of games and teams lined up, that thought, hey, that they would be playing, kind of in July and August. And then, as the months have rolled on and the situations have changed within every, state and every school, and it's really put some certain challenges. The good news for us is we're just so fortunate in our region, and we're so fortunate within our administration, and even just, with who's governing in our areas to allow us to be able to play games and even having a season, it being, kind of reduced and changed, but at least we're able to play a number of games locally. We're fortunate to have Jamestown and New Mary and Williston and Bottineau kind of in our region. And yeah, it kind of puts a challenge, as we had Midland University on the schedule this past weekend or upcoming weekend and 2 weekends after that. And due to COVID concerns, we had to change. But then it's, hey, I can shoot a call over to Williston State and say, hey, we both have a weekend off. Would we be willing to play a game? And, at least the guys can kind of prepare, but, in terms of that stuff. But, I wouldn't be kidding, Nick. It certainly is a challenge. Not only in terms of our schedule, but also just the restrictions that are being placed, within the state and, having a challenge through some of that stuff. But, hoping that it's only going to be just a couple of months of this type of, sifting through and hoping that, if we get through the next couple months, not only in terms of our university, but as a society, and, we can kind of regain a little bit in the second half. So certainly challenges, Nick, but we just take it day by day and hopefully we can kind of move forward.
I'm a big picture guy, and I think about the big picture from out of state. There's a ring sitting here in my office that says National Champions on it, and it's got your logo on it, being a part of this Beavers organization. My question is two parts. Number one, is there talks of a national tournament? Will we have a national tournament? And the second question becomes, is our strength of schedule going to be enough to allow us to get into that national tournament? Touch on that a little bit, Wade. Where are we at with the future at the end of the hockey season in March?
Two very good questions, Nick. Certainly stuff that I've thought about, and I think nationwide we've all kind of thought about it too as well. The first part, to answer your question with the national tournament, is the governing body, the ACHA, had awarded Boston, all 5 divisions, 3 men's and 2 women's national tournaments in Boston to be held in the middle of April. That was announced in the middle of actually last season. The ACHA came out last week and officially decided that, logistically and COVID related, that they'd scrap those plans altogether. So what they did is they basically said, went back to each individual division and said, we're not going to meet in Boston. Each individual league will have the ability to decide where their national tournament is and more importantly, decide the format, which, to be perfectly honest, Nick, that's the way it always should be. You know, there's just as much as it's cool to have all 5 divisions in one, and say, to some, CVB, that it's cool that all 5 ACHA divisions come together. The reality is that there's just a vast difference between the organizational structure of every level, from our level to Division 2 and then obviously down to Division 3. So now it's kind of like, where does the next, level go? Where do we go? And our Division 1 level, they've talked about opening up for the bid process. In fact, I'm thinking of potentially putting a bid for Minot State to be able to host it as well, which would be very cool. The last time that the tournament was hosted here in Minot was back in 2000. But normally in these type of situations, they're looking at, either, some sort of central location, or potentially a bid that can really knock their socks off, which is what I'm hoping to do, for our program. So we're hoping here in the next, month to know exactly where the location is going to be set. Anybody knows Minot knows exactly that the sooner the better, because if we're having to fly, those flight changes and those type of things can be a challenge, for where we live. But the other big thing is, how do we get in? And so that's the other major concern that I certainly have, and a lot of other teams that are currently playing and trying to understand. There's kind of two type of scenarios out there. One that includes, your strength of schedule and everything else kind of as a status quo. The other one is doing a last weekend in March, kind of a conference tournament, winner gets in type of scenario. And as an independent, that obviously gives us challenges in trying to figure out what, how that would look, because there's only 6 independent schools, 2 of them, which are Jamestown and us, which are perennial powerhouses. How do we justify that? So we are waiting to find out word on that scenario, where it could be potentially having a conference tournament held, in Jamestown, or if the other independents don't feel like they qualify to get in, that we might be doing some form of a best of 3, which would be kind of unfortunate, because Jamestown and us, consider ourselves, 2 top 15 teams for sure. But we're hoping that within the next month or two, that we're going to be able to sift through and find out an actual certain plan. Because the reality is this, Nick, is that all these teams that have been shut down until January 1 do not know if they're actually going to be able to play this season. We've already known of a handful of teams out east. I believe Syracuse University and NYU, basically an indication that they will not have a season. So that conference is having some concerns, but we're kind of taking it day by day, and I'm really hoping that we get a lot more clarity here, within the next month. There's a lot of these teams that are, coming back online on January 1, that we can actually have a concrete plan to kind of move forward on how we feel like it's going to be the way to get into the national tournament.
Well, it sounds like quite a headache. It sounds like quite a bit of behind-the-scenes work. Sounds like quite a bit of stress probably, too. So fantastic job handling all that, and to your counterparts in the ACHA making this happen. Like you said out of the gate here on the Inside Look podcast presented by Clean Tech, that at least we're playing games right now. At least there is the opportunity for these players, for the fans, for everybody to be a part of some hockey right now. And that's what I want to touch on next. How good is MSU Beavers hockey here in 2021? Obviously, you've got some studs back. You've got a team that was a favorite to go down and win another national championship, to go back-to-back due to the reasons of COVID not playing that national title last year. Here we are in 2021. Touch on your team, Wade. Do you like your makeup of your team? Do you like what you have? Is there any weaknesses? Overall, what is MSU Beavers hockey like here this year?
You know what? It's the status quo for us, Nick. It's the mentality, it's our culture, it's everything that we, expect to go after and win a national title each and every year. That's just who we are. We're built that way. That's the makeup of our program. And I think even going into last national tournament, we were going in as the 5th seed, and we again felt really good about our team. We felt with our veterans that we had in place, and our new guys really kind of came along. We truly felt like we had the true recipe and the experience to kind of get it done. And we were kind of expecting to go and give another run again. And of course, it got shut down. And going into this season, same kind of mentality. We're new and young in a couple areas, especially in goal, and even in our back end. But we felt like our recruiting class was outstanding. It really provided areas that we needed to kind of fill in some gaps. We really wanted to get faster and a little bit more athletic on our back end. We really had to try to find a couple goaltenders to really replace two elite goaltenders and Josh Bykowski, and we felt like we've done that. And up front, we just needed to add a couple more pieces to really kind of change the dynamic, as we've lost a leading scorer in Joel Swedlow and kind of the catalyst on our offense. But we also did get a gift back, and having our fearless leader Blake Fournier come back, the ultimate leader, tournament MVP, and being able to come back for a fifth season, being able to get his education, student teaching done here in the fall, and then the ability to double major in the second semester and provide himself with a fifth year. We feel like we're a team to win now. Now, if you were to ask us what we need to do, improve on, is we just need to add some more depth. You know what? We've had a couple injuries, kind of late that kind of lowered our numbers a little bit. I would certainly love to, add another piece or two here at Christmas. And so we're kind of seeing how that goes. Of course, we're, all over the country, everything on edge in terms of rosters and who's playing and who's not, and but yeah, that certainly would be my biggest thing for weaknesses. I would love to add a couple more forwards if we could, not so much just to prevent we feel like we want to provide depth in game. It's just more like less either dealing with injuries or having another COVID issues or any of those types of things where if a kid becomes sick and we have to quarantine them, make sure we have the proper numbers to be able to handle that stuff. But I think it's just who we are. We want to win a national title every year, and that's definitely the mentality we have going into the season, and definitely the mentality we have right now.
Is Adam Walworth back in the lineup for you guys? Is that right?
Yep, he certainly is.
Did you ever, and I knew that going in, but I'm sitting here looking at these numbers for Walworth, and last year he finishes the year with 37 games played, one game less than Swedlow on the top of the list. Swedlow with 50 points. Walworth had 47, 31 goals, 16 assists, plus 7 on the year, still racked up 68 penalty minutes. And this is a guy that in his first few years at Minot State, I would have never thought in a million years he would have been a 30-goal scorer. Did you have that same thought, or did you know that Walworth was a guy that had that ability from the time you recruited him out of junior?
You know what? It's, for Adam, absolutely. We knew, that he has the offensive ability to put himself in good spots. It's the hockey IQ that really kind of puts him in the right area. The thing with Adam is just keeping him focused on that. You know what? I think he knows that, focused on being a goal scorer, that's what we want him to be, and I think that's tough for, our program or any hockey player for that matter, is that, they know that they can do everything that they need to do. They also want to be a leader or be a, guy that brings either energy, and, he's kind of that type of player. He's a kid that plays with an edge, which you love. But if you keep him on that edge, he is like most effective player that you can ever think of, especially offensively. He has no fear to go into the corners. He has no fear to go into the trenches in the slot. He has no fear to get to the front of the net. And those are that's definitely his strengths. And, those first couple of years, I just tried to, figure out his identity and, being able to play on a roster that was extremely deep. I mean, those first couple of years, we were number one in the country. We were a team that, was number one team going into both tournaments in Columbus, and he was a kind of a part of a recipe of a team that was just absolutely loaded in talent up front, so trying to find, where his role was, identity. Well, then last year, it just exploded for him. I mean, it's just one of those things where if he stayed focused, in terms of just worry about scoring goals and not worry about anything else. And boy, did he turn into a dynamic hockey player for us. And he earned himself power play time and earned himself extra ice time. And, that's who he is, and he's a catalyst. He's a guy that, like I said, brings energy, and those are things that we want. And man, if he stays focused, he could be one of the best players in the country, and that's something we like about him, and hopefully he continues to do that for us this season.
How about Landon Cohen? Obviously, this is a guy that has high expectations to be one of those leaders again for Minot State in the scoring category. He had 25 assists last year. He added 10 goals for 35 points. He was number 4 in scoring for you guys. The question mark has been some of those injuries that he's had. Can he stay healthy, and can he really find his stride here? Do you expect him, or do you look to him to be one of those guys, Wade, here in 2021?
Absolutely. No, certainly, I know that the championship year, he 4 games in, he, has blown on his knee and had a ACL surgery to kind of replace that. And I know it's tough, especially as a freshman. I think more than anything else, when you're, excited to play college hockey and 4 games in, your season's over. And you know what? There's 2 ways that players could easily have handled that situation. You could be moping in your apartment and poor me and wish I was out there and just kind of go into kind of a depression, or you do the opposite, which what Landon did is, okay, what can I do? Can I still be a part of the team? Can I, sharpen skates? Can I be a stick guy? Can I be around and do those types of things? And he really kind of, that's the mentality he took, and it rubs off with everybody else. Even the players loved him about being around and that excitement. And even when we're throwing our gear all over on a championship, and he's out there and basically a polo and pants and and fanny pack is kind of our informal equipment manager. It was a big positive. So then when he was able to get back in the lineup last year, I felt like he was trying to make up for lost time, and you could certainly see it. He's a finesse player that's a playmaking type of player that can really make plays. And with got the shootout winner for us in Jamestown 2 weeks ago, and really kind of hoping for more of the same. And biggest thing for him is he's versatile. I know he really likes to play center, but sometimes for him it's he can be more beneficial off the wing and be that true playmaker that we love. And those are things that we can kind of use forward as we use him kind of leading us kind of going forward. But absolutely, along with himself, and there's other players like Metcalf, and if Navrot's healthy, he's another big player that can be a big part of our offensive returning guys. And Davis Sheldon, another player that's another leader. So there's a number of these returning players that we're going to kind of lean on a little bit, but the experience in our locker room is deep, and that's something that's big for us.
Loaded question here, and it's one that you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm going to put you on the spot, though. I'm curious. Blake Fournier, as the captain of your hockey team, in the amount of years that you've been the head coach of Minot State, there's been some studs and some dudes and some guys that have led that team and led in such a positive way. For me, Blake Fournier is at the top of that list when it comes to, and it's no knock on anybody else that has ever worn a patch on their shoulder for a Minot State hockey program. It's just that Fournier, the way that guy carries himself is really, really, really respectable. Where does he rank in your mind, Wade, as one of the captains of Minot State hockey all time? Is he up at the top of the list or at least close?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. It's certainly, as a coach, you don't want to be obviously picking favorites in terms of what you feel like are players that have been in that position. And even before I'd been on this program, I mean, there's been a lot of leaders that have really, stepped up within our program and have kind of led the path, not only both on and off the ice, but he certainly is towards the top. There's no doubt about it. I mean, anytime you have a leader, there's a number of intangibles and a number of things, including, his on-ice play as being, I think he's been voted hardest working player every season. He's been a part of our program, to how he conducts himself off the ice, with either the volunteering efforts that we do within our organization, or even just being the perfect student, and how he conducts himself, in his classrooms and everything of that nature. And, there certainly is, like I said, a lot of very special players that I've been able to coach. And, he certainly is towards the top among other leaders that I've had. I mean, there's, it's crazy that, we've really haven't struck out with, our captains that have either been voted upon amongst our players or picked, combination with our coaching staff. And that's kind of how it's always been for myself, is we do allow our players to do a vote, and kind of in a 40 split, players to coaching, staff, to make sure that it's not a popularity. And as a coaching staff, we always have kind of an idea of who we feel, should be our leaders, and we just kind of hopefully get the players to kind of reconfirm that. And it's always been like that. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's, when you talk about a rebuilding team, that has aspirations just to, win a national title, but hey, we're just excited to be at a national tournament to kind of carry the load and, be a tournament MVP is certainly very special for him. And, it's kind of the same thing with, having him right the ship for our team this year as well, and the expectations. But yeah, he's a very special player, and, those are types of players that leave a lasting legacy, not only within the locker room, but in the community here in Minot.
Absolutely. 5 times, if I'm not mistaken, Wade, you've been up for the Coach of the Year in the ACHA. You've won it twice, 2013 and 2017. Congratulations. We've talked about this before. I mean, what an honor with the amount of teams inside the ACHA. Some might not know that you played for the Beavers back in 2004 to 8, I believe, if that's correct, Wade?
Yep, that's correct.
I want to have some fun with you right now as we're talking hockey right now. Can you hop in the time machine? Is there a story, of a funny story, a good story, something that comes to mind, a best story, a best memory, or a memory that's worth telling the fans about from your playing days, whether it was a bus trip where something goofy happened on a bus or an overtime winner that you may have had? Do you have a story from your time back in your playing days at 2004 to 2008 for Mounted State?
Oh man, there's just certainly so many to say the least. As a player, I still to this day have a great amount of relationships that as alumni now that we've all kind of connected as a program, and being able to kind of work together. And some of these guys are still scouting players for us. There's a ton of different memories. One of the biggest ones that I remember is I came in 2004 as a freshman. It was the year after the infamous brawl that happened with Botno and the rivalry that ties the two schools from that year. But
sure.
As my freshman year, we weren't allowed to play each other. They put a just basically a block on both programs, kind of a cooling off. But when I sophomore, we were able to reconnect those two programs. They announced it. I think we had already started the season. And, they were able to, the university president, Dr. David Fuller, finally gave the green light on it. And we played Dakota College at Botno, which was, Botno Junior College at the time, at the All Seasons in, I think it was January or February. And it was at the All Seasons. And I can't tell you how many people we played in front of. It was probably the largest crowd, I'd ever played in front of. It felt like there was 2,000 to 3,000 fans at the All Seasons. And, we played bad and we lost, I think it was 5-2 or 4-2, but just being able to play in the All Seasons, and I'm sure Nick, some of those cool atmospheres of being able to play in front of a whole full house, either it be minor high, playing either West Region games in front of full houses, or the previous teams, the Minor Americans or the Top Guns, and just that atmosphere at the All Seasons. But that was really cool because it was you walked into warm-ups and you're like, holy cow, it feels like the building's full just for warm-ups. You've never seen so many people in this building before. But that was a cool memory for us. Even though we lost the game, it was still pretty cool for us to be able to play in front of one of the largest crowds, I think, at that time. As everybody kind of thought there was going to be more melee, but just having good hockey in front of a huge crowd, that was definitely a blast for me.
Unbelievable to think about the process and the chain of command, having to go to the very top of the universities just to stamp, okay, well, we'll give it a try, because these two teams have been at a war that way. Over time, would you say that Botno is the number one opponent for Minot State in that sense? Jamestown certainly turning a corner here, and there's some national people, I suppose, that you've got some dogfights with every single time, but all time, would that be the number one rivalry for Beavers hockey in your mind?
Certainly. I think certainly for alumni and people in general, and just, the way the relationship had always been between the programs, and just even the storied passes of both programs, the amount of successes that Botno has had at the junior college level, where it felt like they've won 100 national titles, and, even for our Minot State programs and the success that have come. And, the cool part is it's crazy how that has evolved, that has evolved within our program, how the rivalries have really kind of developed and they've changed. Botno was, huge rivalry from, the 90s through the 2000s. And then, kind of when I took over, kind of the rivalry that really was the Arizona State one, where both programs were elite, and we were able to win the 2013 national championship, and then they won the 2014 national championship. And I feel like we still probably would have been rivalries, or rivals for that matter, until they made the big jump to Division I hockey. And then today to Jamestown, and we're just so fortunate that the evolution and the, expansion of hockey in our region has happened. I mean, if we go back to your original question about the headaches that we've had within our, the COVID restrictions and everything going on, had we not had expansion in Williston and New Mary and Jamestown, I don't think we'd be playing this fall. I mean, that's basically the bulk of our scheduling that have gone on. And, I even talked to Dean Stork, the head coach at Jamestown, thank goodness we have each other. We've had, a number of schedule changes that have happened, throughout, this year and even in past seasons where, we have that flexibility. We usually circle 4 weekends on the schedule where both of our programs are playing each other. And then all of a sudden we get, call that Colorado wants to come in, and the only weekend that works for them is on a weekend that him and I have scheduled. We can move it. We can play each other on another weekend, or, God forbid we have to move during the week. And so, yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's just nice that we do have these rivalries, and Nick, everybody has a different rivalry that's big for them. Some people like, the ASU one. Some people like the Williston State one. Some people like the Jamestown one. And, you maybe even ask some students now that really enjoy the U-Mary one, where we basically fill both rinks. And, that U-Mary rivalry runs deep, within alumni that goes back, hundreds, not hundreds, but, tens of years, decades, because of the ties to, the other athletic sports. So, but I'll tell you this, I'm just fortunate that we do have these regional rivalries, and I look forward to playing them when the schedule comes up.
Looking forward to more conversations like this, Wade, throughout the year, and keep up the good work with Minot State. Unblemished record so far on the year, and another fun year without a doubt to be a part of, no matter what the capacity is due to the restrictions of COVID. Thanks again for joining us here today, Wade. Fantastic stuff, and look forward to seeing you at the rink this weekend.
You bet. Take care, Nick.
That's Wade Regier, the head coach of the Minot State University Beavers, here on our Inside Look podcast, presented by Clean Tech. Minot State's at home this weekend, Saturday afternoon, against Williston State.